Hi everyone, welcome to the Digital Monkeys podcast. I'm your host Cynthia, and today I'm joined by
Frank
and Jackie.
And today's episode we are
breaking the bias.
In case you're wondering what breaking the bias is, it's the theme for this year's International Women's Day. And before we even go further into breaking the bias, do people really understand what bias against women is?
To some extent they do, some things they do, but sometimes they don't. They find that some things they do without, it's more of impassive, but it really affects a woman.
Do women themselves also understand when there is bias against them? Or do they know, do they have a feel? Do you think they do that?
I think to some degree, yes and no. Some might know, some might not know. And just, if you look at the context of the bias in itself, is it in communities, is it in schools, is it high school? Where are we breaking the bias, basically? I think those environments.
Yeah, to add on that, you realize that some of the things we've grown knowing, it's kind of instilled in us from young age, so we don't even realize it's wrong. We don't even realize it's biasness. I believe as much as we might know the bigger issues affecting us in the societies, some we don't.
I think also it can be unconscious. You don't even realize it's happening. Maybe you're the one who is doing it, or it's being done to you, and it's all unconscious. So I think that's also something.
Also upbringing as well, that can contribute to the bias.
Okay. Do you think that women themselves, if maybe, for example, I'm at a place of work, and one day I'm showing this one side of me, and then the next day I'm on a side where maybe someone really can't approach me, do you think that is something that can contribute to there being bias against me as a woman?
As much as that's a personality trait, which can happen to anyone, whether a woman or a man, women tend to have lots of those. And they really do affect their relationships around them. But on the other hand, men take it out of context. So it's 50-50.
I do believe in the workplace, I think that has happened more often than not. Just looking at the environments, just even from HR, how things are dealt with in the first place. There could be bloodlines in terms of what constitutes of the bias, what constitutes of the thing that seems normal and the thing that doesn't seem normal. It's very blood. And I think it's changing, you're morphing into, understanding, even as the males tend to get into that space to understand. And I think that's where a lot of education needs to be.
As women, or even generally with men, do you think we need to be the ones to bring out this education, or bring out pointing out ways of breaking the bias? Is it a personal responsibility? Is it something we need to sit down and teach people? What do you think about that?
Actually, that's a good question. I've never thought of it that way. But what I believe and what I feel, it's not just a personal responsibility. It's the society's responsibility. It's the community's responsibilities, because as you were saying, some things we do them unconsciously. We don't know whether we are being biased against, or we don't know whether we are leading on to being biased against. So as much as a person I want to be taken this way, it's the responsibility of the society. It's the responsibility of each and every one of us, whether a man, whether a woman. Okay, for example, you find that some people are being abused just for the mere fact they are women, especially in the Kenyan situation. So what happens to them? Do they believe that this is wrong? Do they believe that this is normal? And when you point it out to them like this is not normal, they'll turn against you. So it should be education from every part, from every corner.
Even just looking at that aspect of education, there's inequality in education itself. I think that's also a barrier that needs to be crossed. Just even at the most elementary level, at primary school, it's very subjective. We're told this sport is for men, or this sport or this subject is for, it's for boys. And I think that in itself that inequality starts it's preconditioned early on.
Exactly.
Even at home, it could not just also be at school, it could be at home. How someone relates with their spouse, how someone relates with the kid.
Even the duties at home.
Yeah, true.
Can it even be siblings? If maybe you're brought up with boys, there's a way you feel inferior, or you feel you grow up maybe feeling like you're there's biasness already because there's a gender imbalance.
Yeah,
Can that also contribute?
Yes, it does. By the way, it does to the largest percentage in Kenya. Because if I give an example of where I come from, the traditions dictate that a woman's place is
in the kitchen.
I didn't want to finish that.
Yeah.
But that's what they say.
Yeah.
Like you find some duties are allocated to women and some are allocated. But to a larger percentage, you find that most of the burden is on the woman's shoulder.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't be the case. It should be. We are not advocating for inequality against men, but equality for everyone.
For everyone,
yeah.
Let me ask. I think this is an interesting conversation as well.
Yeah.
Is that conversation of boy child as well, in terms of a bias in itself, and then there's also the bias, against women itself.
Yeah.
It's like a double-edged sword.
True.
Because at some point there's that attention where one feels it needs to be superior over the other.
Yeah.
And I think that it's inequality in itself.
Yeah.
So there should be a balance.
Yeah. From the onset.
Yeah. Okay. Do we say there are ways we can contribute to breaking the bias? Do you think there are ways we can contribute into breaking the bias? Does it start from us? Does it start from the community? Does it start from the school, the workplace? Is it in general? Are there specific ways you can do it at a workplace that's different from home, that's different from somewhere else?
Okay, if I may try to answer that, I think there is always a misunderstanding. Like Frank was saying, there is this discussion of boy child and girl child.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking of breaking the bias against women, we always think of empowering the woman against the boy.
Yep.
You see, empowering the girl against the boy, but that shouldn't be the case. Do we understand which areas should really be empowered?
Yeah.
That should be the first question.
That's where we should start.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we talk of empowering the woman, we should talk in terms of what should be done to bring a balance to both.
Okay.
Not what should be done to uplift one
and bring down the other.
Exactly. That's why there are some ways we can do. There are some things we should do, but it's not an individual responsibility. It's a society issue. Yeah.
Can't you say it starts from you? Because you can't change the society if the people in the society haven't changed. Because I believe when one person changes, if you change, if Frank changes, I change, that becomes a society and we all change.
I think something that is quite interesting is also the awareness.
Yeah.
Because you see, when you're, as a person, trying to effect change,
Yeah.
are you aware? Are you self-aware of what needs to change in the first place?
Exactly.
And there could be preconceived notions in terms of what things need to change.
Yeah.
And you can push your agenda as a driver when you are evoking change.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a very, I think it's like, how do you contextualize then what would be the parameter for change as an individual that would have a greater impact to the community as you are touching on one and on to the next and on to another? What would be those things as you build up to that self-awareness first within and then before you impact someone else?
Okay.
And like to support that, I think something else that is very much important is what influence do you have? You know, you can be having the best of interest and you will change yourself, but the society won't acknowledge that. They won't accept.
Okay.
So what influence do you have in that?
So you have to be a little bit influential for this change to happen, or you can try and push it even if you're not influential.
Like you must have a strategy.
Oh,
That's what
okay. It's not being influential. Right.
As much as you are influential or not influential, without a proper strategy of the change you want, it won't take place.
Okay. That's really interesting because I never thought of it like that, but that's a good way. When we were trying to break the bias, we can provide training and education to these two people, especially women, and then we can also do it to the men in the society. How better can we do this in order to break the bias?
I think it starts from home, basically,
in
my view. As in that small unit, that SI unit, it's the most simplest to start, and then from a community level, educating your child on, what inequality and equality means. Because that's where it all begins. When you treat someone special in a certain way, then they tend to feel they're not equal. They tend to find themselves unequal. For instance, in a contextual upbringing, where the first toy a girl is bought is a doll. And the first toy a boy is bought is a car. And how do you bring that conversation at home, where it doesn't really, maybe it could be perceived bias, where it's preconceived at that very early stage, where ladies just play with dolls and boys just play with cars. And could be if we interchange, ladies start maybe playing with cars. Maybe it could be spark engineering, could spark the interest of, can I explore STEM, or could I explore, So I think that in itself, just starting at home and being aware. I'm not saying that you don't buy dolls for girls, but being aware what are those variant things that you can introduce holistically that would not come as unequal, like from that representation.
Okay. With that, I think that one leads me to what I believe is that we are lacking mentorship from the onset.
Yeah, true.
Because, like he's saying, from the onset, a girl is bought a doll, a boy is bought a car, and then there are things that they look up to. As a parent, we are the first mentor to that child. They are looking up to you. So what you are doing, it's what they will subconsciously do without even realizing this is not right, this is not normal, this is not how it should be. But you are instilling that behavior into them without even you yourself realizing. So I believe mentorship should start from parents downwards to the kid, because if we mentor the parents in the right way, they will be able to mentor their kids. Even not necessarily in the family settings, even in other areas like careers and all that. You find that most women do not have mentors. So with that, they don't know what to go for. They don't know what they need. With a mentor, a mentor is very important, because he or she will guide you in the right direction. They are able to identify your potential without even you realizing that you are capable of this. So without the mentor, it's like you are sleeping on a talent.
I think for me, mentorship is also key, and we always look at different facets of people. So be at home, be in school, be at church, be in the playing ground, for instance. And just that interaction, as kids in school, for instance. How is the education sector supporting, not treating people unequal, as in looking at only one variant? So I think those different touch points, I believe, in terms of mentorship, because you can have one mentor that's at home, that's your first touch point. Then at school, who's your other mentor? At church. And it's a community obligation to be first aware of the narrative you're going to drive. And I think that's where the complexity comes in, because there's so many bloodlines in terms of who should take what role and at what capacity or at what level.
And I also think women sometimes don't believe in themselves as being mentors for other women, because maybe I think that's where it comes into biasness, where they think they're not as good as maybe the men, the same in the same field they're in.
Yeah.
So if women can also adapt into the mentorship and become mentors, the women who are already in a better place than other women, they can become mentors and help them, and this way they can also change and break the bias.
Exactly. I've just thought of a saying that people say, women are the worst enemies to women, which shouldn't be the case. And because we grow hearing that, we believe that. So I wouldn't trust a woman with my secret. That's why you find even the few women who are into mentorship, they go into male. I think we should start with the small issues in the society to change the attitude from the onset.
Let me ask, I think this is a question where, let's say, very simple, where a lady giving compliment to another lady, and then the spiral of this lady needs to look up even much better than this other lady next time. As in terms of that narrative, even as a mentor, a lady mentor, is there a cup where you put, like, I got where I got, and it's not been easy, and it's not freewheeling giving mentorship? That challenge where a lady feels like also you need to go through that journey. Do you have you ever felt that situation, or has that narrative always come to be, or is it the norm? You know, those people where you look up for mentorship, but accessing them is a challenge in the first place. It's like, I got here, and we acknowledge you got here and you appreciate that you got here, but accessing them is the issue, and that creates also a bias, like you're mentioning, you know, being our worst enemy. Where access, it's like a privilege, it's like a prior, it's like I have to really work towards getting to you.
Getting a mentor. Yeah, I think that's also something that contributes, because they don't have that direct access, or maybe they don't even have the person whom they can go to become their mentor. So I feel like that is something also that we can change as women and break the bias.
In terms of accessibility, are there any platforms, are there any places where people can reach out just to find mentors? Or it's a conversation that should be driven even at the onset when you're thinking about breaking the bias? Because look at it in this, if I was to think of someone who's quite influential, a lady, and the first touch point would be, how would I get access to them? I don't know. How would you break that barrier just for access?
Okay, what I think, it depends. Let me answer this in terms of career-wise. It depends with your sector. Like, it depends with your career and what you want from it. That's how you are able to identify so and so has made it, so I can look up to them. There are some institutions who would look for those individuals in that particular, or who are interested in that field, and try and mentor them. But in terms of society, I have no idea.
I think also there are some, as workplaces, maybe an industry or a certain company, I think they should also create programs that promote women mentorships, because that would be a way to help women, because maybe you don't have the mentor at your workplace, but in your industry at large, you can find someone. So that could be something that could be created for women to help in creating mentorship. Yeah,
and I feel this is the point where I should mention some companies who are doing a really good work. There is a bank, Credit Bank.
Yes.
They launched Elevator. It's an account, but it comes with various qualities, various benefits. Towards women, because they are not looking at just we need you. They are looking for like, you need us and we can do this and this for you. We need you to grow for us to grow. So that's one thing even companies should try looking up to, because you don't just need this person doesn't just need you. You need that person to grow. You need that woman to grow. And it should be happening even in the society level. That's where we are stuck, I believe.
Yeah.
True. I think one area that I'm really interested is, you see, breaking the bias. Could be various industries, career, maybe finance. There are also sports.
Yeah.
There's also science. Okay, very subliminally. How do we champion more engineers? How do we champion? Where can that change start? I think the bias in itself, those very few elements that you interact with day to day when you are growing up. What are the avenues people could explore, and how can also men contribute to that story or that narrative where they encourage and they empower and they uplift and they actually change that script? But it's a collective unit. I don't think we can have a straight answer. It's a collective responsibility.
I like your question as much as is a question to us and to the society and to everyone. It has brought a very interesting point in my mind, the mindset of a woman. Like, what do they believe in? Because you find that we might be trying to break the bias. Everyone might be looking for break the bias, but themselves, they have preconditioned the notion that we are this way. So whether you try to do anything, they won't change. I guess that something should be addressed from both an individual level and from the other person's points of perception.
Yeah, I think we can also go with that when it comes to women exploring other areas, like when you say sports. It also goes back to the mindset, because maybe their mindset has been conditioned to believing sports is not for, there are sports that are not meant for women. So if you change the mindset of a woman from that fundamental point, that's when now they can explore, trying, maybe even open a business in sports and become successful and become something better. Even the kids, when they grow up, the girls, they can now explore the STEM and then become engineers. They can go into tech, they can do math. It's not only for boys, but all that boils down to the mindset. So I think that's also something that contributes into women exploring other areas other than what they have been taught to believe that is what is meant for women.
Yeah, even with that, at workplace, maybe he will expound better.
Sure.
But you find that even when negotiating for salaries, a woman will place them at maybe half of or even lower percentage than the required benefits for that specific career position. So I feel, and a man will even position themselves double. And the HR, you know what the HR will do? Will employ the man for double and even try to bargain the woman's percentage. I don't know if you've experienced that in the workplace.
I think that in the workplace, over the long duration that I've worked, I think it has come subconsciously, where even you, when you go to negotiate your salary, when you're told a certain line, you know this is where I need to stick to. I think that has come across, and I think it could be the narrative can change, should change actually. In terms of even HR, are there policies that treat that inequality through a policy or through some framework of sort where it's not just the gender, it's more on the output, it's more on the result.
With that, I think we need, as women, we need trainings. We need people to educate us on what is required, what a position is supposed to be. Like, for example, when advertising for a job, put the job benefits very clearly, so that when you are coming to negotiate, we are negotiating from a certain point. Not because if you just put an ad like that, I don't know what you are offering, and if I might ask something and you'll be like, no, that's too much, and I might ask something and you'll be smiling all the way to the bank because of the balance.
Okay. While we wrap up, do you think you can break the bias as an individual? You can just answer. Do you think you can break the bias?
Yes,
from an individual point of view, not as a society? You can help in contributing to break the bias?
Yes, I can help into contributing.
Do you think you can help?
Yeah, obviously. You can enable, you can start that conversation spark where can people, own up to sports, or take up science, for instance.
Yeah.
But that education, how would you enable it even from home, even in the workplace?
Yeah. Okay, I think we can all contribute into breaking the bias and help change and bring equality to the society. So, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Break the bias.